The empath's silence is different from all the other silences, and the avoidant recognizes it too late. Not angry silence, not strategic silence, not strategic silence designed to get response or create guilt or manipulate return. Just silence. The silence of someone who's done. Who's finished? Who's moved from trying to accepting, from fighting to surrendering, from hoping to knowing? The silence is final, is complete, is the sound of door closing, of decision made, of chapter ending. An ending through silence is different from ending through words. Words can be argued with, words can be negotiated, words can be walked back. But silence that comes after years of words is silence that means words are over. Time for words is past. Window for conversation has closed. The empath has moved beyond talking, beyond explaining, beyond trying to make avoidant understand, has accepted that understanding isn't coming, that change isn't happening, that relationship as it is relationship as it will always be. And accepting unchanging reality is then choosing themselves, choosing to stop sacrificing to patterns that don't change, choosing to stop giving to person who can't receive. And choosing self over avoidant is silence, is withdrawal, is presence becoming absence in ways that feel different from previous absences, feels complete, feels permanent, feels like ending that won't reverse. The avoidant notices immediately that this silence is different, notices through the quality of the quiet, through the energy of the absence, through the way empath is gone in ways they haven't been gone before. Previous silences still had connection, still had empath being hurt or angry but engaged, still had emotional charge that meant empath still cared enough to feel strongly. But this silence is neutral, is calm, is empath being unbothered in ways they've never been unbothered. An unbothered empath is terrifying, is more frightening than angry empath, more threatening than hurt empath, more final than silent but still hoping empath. Because unbothered means done, means whatever made them care has stopped making them care. Means the investment is withdrawn, means the hope is dead, means the trying is over. And over-trying from empath is avoidance suddenly having no one doing the work, no one maintaining connection, no one pursuing, no one caring enough to be hurt by avoidance patterns, just neutral absence, just calm distance, just empathy being fine in ways that communicate they're fine without avoidant. They're fine endingness, they're fine walking away, they're fine with silence being permanent, and fine with permanent ending is avoidant recognizing too late what they're losing. This silence marks transition point where empath's empathy stops extending to avoidant, point where empath's understanding stops accommodating patterns, point where empath's patience stops waiting for change. The transition is internal, is happening in empath's private experience before becoming visible in their behavior. Is them reaching limit they didn't know they had, is them exhausting capacity they thought was infinite. Is them finally seeing clearly that their empathy is enabling, their understanding is being used against them, their patience is being taken for granted. The seeing clearly is empathy waking up, is fog lifting, is them recognizing they've been in dysfunctional dynamic. They've been sacrificing themselves, they've been doing all the work, they've been accepting unacceptable treatment because they understood why treatment was unacceptable. But understanding why doesn't make it acceptable. Understanding wound doesn't make wounding okay. Understanding fear doesn't make fear-based rejection something to tolerate indefinitely. The recognition is empathy's empathy finally extending to themselves, finally seeing their own pain as valid as avoidance pain, finally recognizing their needs as important as avoidance needs, finally understanding that loving someone wounded doesn't require letting someone's wound destroy you, and understanding self-worth finally is them going quiet, is them stopping the talking that hasn't worked. The explaining that hasn't landed, the pursuing that hasn't been reciprocated, just stopping, just going silent, just being done. Why empath silence is different from avoidance silence. Avoidance silence is defense, is protection, is strategy for managing overwhelm, is them creating distance to regulate themselves, is temporary state that ends when they feel safe enough to re-engage. The defensive silence is functional for avoidant, is serving purpose, is helping them manage nervous system activation, is giving them space they need. But avoidance silence always has hook, always has unspoken expectation that other person will wait, will be there when avoidant is ready to return, will understand the silence as necessary, not as ending. The hook is avoidant maintaining power through silence, maintaining control through withdrawal. maintaining relationship on their terms through pattern of disappearing and reappearing at will, and pattern maintained through silence is avoidance silence being temporary, being strategic, being part of push-pull dynamic that keeps relationship going while keeping intimacy controlled. But empath silence is surrender, is acceptance, is realization that nothing they do will change dynamic. The surrender silence has no hook, has no expectation avoidant will chase, has no strategy embedded, just acceptance that this is over. That staying is harming them, that leaving is necessary, that silence is the leaving, is how they leave without drama, without anger, without making avoidant wrong. Just stop engaging, stop responding, stop being available, stop caring in ways that hurt them. The stopping is self-protection, is self-love finally asserting itself, is empath finally choosing themselves after years of choosing to understand avoidant. And choosing self through silence is silence that doesn't end, doesn't reverse, doesn't have exception where right words or right gesture brings empathy back. Because empathy isn't testing, isn't waiting, isn't hoping, is just done. And done is permanent in ways avoidance silence never is final in ways avoidant can't comprehend until experiencing it. Until recognizing that empath's silence feels different, sounds different, is the different that means too late. Avoidant silence also carries guilt, carries internal conflict, carries part of them knowing their silence is hurting another person. The guilt is why avoidant eventually returns, why silence eventually breaks, why they reach back out. The guilt is discomfort that drives re-engagement, but empath's silence carries peace, carries relief, carries sense of rightness about decision. The peace is confirmation they made right choice. The relief is validation that staying was costing too much. The rightness is knowing they tried everything, and stopping is appropriate response to trying everything without change. The peace in silence is what makes it permanent, is empath not being internally conflicted, not feeling guilty, not questioning whether they should give one more chance, just knowing this is done, this is right, this is them finally honoring themselves. And knowing rightness is silence, that's sustainable, that doesn't crack, that doesn't reverse, that's maintained not through effort, but through peace. And peace maintained silence is unbreakable, is empath being done in ways that don't undone. The specific signs that empath has reached the point of no return. They stop explaining their needs, stop articulating what hurts, stop teaching avoidant about their patterns, stop trying to help avoidant understand. The stopping explanation is them accepting that explaining hasn't worked, won't work, is wasted energy, is them talking to person who can't hear, won't hear, doesn't want to hear, and accepting won't hear is them going quiet, not explaining anymore, not teaching anymore, not trying to create understanding anymore. Just accepting understanding won't come, won't develop, won't be achieved no matter how clearly they explain. And accepting futility of words is them becoming silent, becoming done with conversation that goes nowhere, done with explaining that creates no change, done with words that fall on defended ears. The silence, instead of explaining, is shift from hoping communication will fix things to accepting communication is pointless. And accepting pointless communication is them being done, being over it, being finished trying. They stop pursuing when avoidant withdraws. Historically, empath would chase, would reach out, would try to close distance avoidant created. The chasing was empath managing their anxiety, managing need for connection. But chasing also maintained relationship, maintained connection despite avoidance withdrawal, made avoidance pattern sustainable because empath would do work of maintaining relationship during avoidance absence. But now empath stops chasing, stops reaching out, stops trying to close distance, just lets avoidant be withdrawn. Lets distance be distance, lets absence be absence. The stopped chasing is empath finally having boundaries, finally letting avoidance pattern have natural consequences. Finally, allowing distance avoidant creates to be actual distance, not managed distance. And actual distance is space where relationship ends, is space that doesn't get closed by empath's effort, is space that grows, that becomes permanent, that becomes ending. And ended through stopped chasing is relationship dying natural death that would have happened earlier if empath hadn't been artificially maintaining it through their constant pursuit. They stop making accommodations for avoidance patterns, stop adjusting their needs to fit avoidance capacity, stop accepting less than they need, stop rationalizing why patterns are okay, stop making excuses, stop giving chances, stop waiting for change, Just stop. Stop accommodating, stop adjusting, stop accepting. And stopped accommodating is them having standards, having limits, having boundaries that aren't flexible anymore, that aren't negotiable anymore, that aren't something they sacrifice to keep relationship. The firm boundaries are new, are different, are empath finally valuing themselves as much as they valued avoidant. And equal valuing is them recognizing they deserve more, deserve reciprocity, deserve effort, deserve someone who meets them instead of someone they have to accommodate to maintain connection with. The recognizing deserving is them going silent, going distant, going done. Because being done is only response to recognizing you deserve more, and person can't give more, and more isn't coming no matter how long you wait. What empath realizes that makes silence the only option. Empath realizes their empathy was being weaponized against them. Their understanding was making them tolerate intolerable. Their patience was enabling patterns instead of creating space for growth. Their compassion was being used to avoid accountability. The realization is painful, is recognizing they were participating in their own harm, were facilitating dysfunction, were making patterns sustainable through their endless capacity to understand why patterns exist, and understanding why made them stay when they should have left, made them give more chances when chances were already exhausted, made them sacrifice their needs to accommodate avoidance defended state. The weaponized empathy is betrayal, not betrayal by avoidant necessarily. Betrayal by their own empathy, by capacity that's usually gift becoming trap. Becoming reason to accept unacceptable, becoming justification for staying in dynamic that's destroying them. And recognizing weaponization is them understanding they need to protect their empathy. Need to extend it to themselves first. Need to stop using it as reason to tolerate patterns. And protecting empathy means going silent, means withdrawing empathy from situation where empathy is being used against them, means stopping the understanding that leads to staying, just going quiet, going distant, going done. Empath realizes avoidant is comfortable with the dynamic, is not in pain enough to change, is not motivated enough to do the work, is content to continue patterns indefinitely. The realization is devastating, is recognizing that empath's pain about the dynamic isn't matched by avoidant's pain about the dynamic, that empath wants change desperately while avoidant is fine with status quo, that empath is suffering while avoidant is comfortable. The comfort-suffering mismatch is inequality that makes relationship unsustainable. Is empath being the only one who's unhappy, the only one who's willing to work for different, and being only one working is exhausting, is depleting. Is lonely, is being in relationship alone, is caring about relationship health alone, is wanting growth alone, and alone in relationship is lonelier than being actually alone, is worse than being single. Is suffering presence of someone who's content to stay in dynamic that's destroying you, and suffering with someone comfortable is empathy realizing being alone would be better, would be less painful, would be more honest. At least alone is actually alone, not the false connection of being with someone who's emotionally absent. The realization makes silence the only option, makes leaving the only choice, makes being done the only self-respecting response to recognizing your suffering in dynamic other person is comfortable maintaining indefinitely. Empath realizes the cost of staying is higher than the cost of leaving. Cost of staying is losing themselves, losing their energy, losing their peace, losing their joy, losing their self-respect, losing years to relationship that isn't reciprocal. Cost of leaving is losing avoidant, losing hope for what relationship could have been, losing investment already made, losing shared history. But losing avoidant is losing person who can't meet them. Losing hope is releasing fantasy. Losing investment is sunk cost they can stop throwing good energy after. Losing history is releasing past that has no future. The cost comparison is clarifying, is recognizing that staying costs their self while leaving only costs relationship that isn't working. And self is more valuable than broken relationship. Self is irreplaceable, while broken relationship is replaceable with functional relationship eventually. Self is foundation of everything, while relationship is addition that should enhance, not destroy foundation. The valuing self over relationship is them finally having priorities right, is them finally seeing clearly that protecting themselves matters more than maintaining relationship with person who can't protect them, can't meet them, can't reciprocate. And clear priorities is them going silent, going distant, going done. Because done is only option when staying costs everything and leaving only costs something that was costing everything. How avoidant misinterprets the silence initially. Avoidant thinks empath is being strategic, thinks silence is manipulation, thinks empath is trying to make them chase, thinks empath is playing games. The thinking it's strategy is avoidant projecting. Is avoidant interpreting empath's silence through their own lens, through their own patterns, through their own tactics of using silence strategically. But empath's silence isn't strategic, isn't manipulation, isn't designed to get response, is genuine withdrawal, is actual ending, is real doneness. But avoidant can't see that initially, can't distinguish between strategic silence and surrender silence, can't recognize that empath's silence has different quality, different energy, different meaning. The can't recognize is avoidant being defended, being unable to see clearly because seeing clearly would mean facing that empath is leaving, that relationship is ending, that their patterns finally cost them someone who mattered. And facing consequence is too threatening to defended system. So defended system interprets silence as gain, not as genuine departure, as test, not as conclusion, as temporary, not as permanent. Avoidant also thinks empath will return, will break the silence, will reach out eventually, will come back like they always came back. The thinking they'll return is based on history, based on pattern of empath always returning before, always being the one who breaks silence, always being the one who reinitiates, always being the one who can't tolerate distance. But this time is different. This time empath isn't coming back, isn't breaking silence, isn't reaching out, is tolerating distance fine, is comfortable with silence, is at peace with absence. The different, this time, is invisible to avoidant initially. Is avoidant waiting for pattern to repeat, waiting for empath to chase, waiting for pursuit that justified their withdrawal pattern in past. But pursuit isn't coming, pattern isn't repeating, empath isn't chasing, and not chasing is empath being done in ways avoidant doesn't recognize until too much time has passed, until silence has gone on too long to be strategy, until absence has become too complete to be temporary. Until avoidant finally recognizes this isn't game, this is ending, this is empath actually leaving, and recognizing actual leaving is panic. Is avoidant realizing they misread the silence, misunderstood the absence, miscalculated how done empath actually was. Avoidant minimizes the significance initially, tells themselves empath is overreacting, that silence is dramatic, that empath will get over it, that relationship problems aren't that serious, that empath is being too sensitive. The minimizing is defense. Is avoidant protecting themselves from facing reality, from facing that their patterns are costing them empath, from facing that damage is severe enough to end relationship, from facing that empath's silence is appropriate response to patterns, not overreaction. The defensive minimizing is avoidant staying comfortable, staying unbothered, staying confident that empath will return. But minimizing doesn't change reality, doesn't make empath less than, doesn't make silence less final, doesn't make ending less real. Just delays avoidance recognition of reality, delays their panic, delays their realization that they've lost empath through their patterns. And delayed recognition is avoidant waking up too late. Is them realizing after silence has been maintained so long that reversing it is impossible, that door has closed, that empath has moved on, that being done is permanent state, not temporary phase. Why empath's silence destroys avoidant in specific way? The silence is absence of the one thing avoidant depended on without acknowledging dependence. Empath was doing all the work, all the pursuing, all the emotional labor, all the maintaining of connection. Avoidant could stay defended while having relationship because empath was doing work of relationship. But empath's silence is withdrawal of that work. Is empath no longer maintaining connection avoidant wasn't maintaining? No longer pursuing avoidant who wasn't pursuing back? No longer doing labor avoidant wasn't doing? The withdrawal of empath's work is avoidant suddenly having no one doing anything, having relationship that's actually as distant as their patterns create, having withdrawal that's actually withdrawn, not managed. And actually withdrawn is lonely, is isolated, is avoidant experiencing what their defended state creates when there's no empath compensating for what defended state prevents. The experiencing actual consequence is devastating. Is avoidant facing they weren't as independent as they thought, were depending on empath's work, were relying on empath's effort, were sustained by empath's energy, and sustained by other is recognizing dependence, is recognizing they needed empath in ways they didn't admit, ways they denied, ways they defended against acknowledging. And acknowledged dependence too late is specific pain, is recognizing what you needed after losing what you needed. Is understanding what someone was giving after they stopped giving? Is seeing clearly what you had after you no longer have it? The silence is also a mirror showing avoidant their impact. When empath was engaged, was hurt or angry or trying, their reactions showed they cared, showed relationship mattered, showed avoidant had impact. But silence shows different impact, shows avoidance patterns destroyed empath's caring, shows avoidance withdrawal created empath's withdrawal, shows avoidance defended state created empath's defended state. The mirrored withdrawal is avoidance seeing clearly what they do to people, what their patterns create, what their defended state costs, not through words, not through explanations, through experiencing it, through feeling what it feels like to be on receiving end of withdrawal, to be on other side of silence, to be the one who's being left. The experiencing own pattern reflected back is devastating teaching. Is avoidant learning through direct experience what their behavior creates, and learn through experience is more powerful than learn through words. Is visceral, is undeniable, is creating understanding that explanation never created, is them finally getting it, finally seeing it, finally recognizing their patterns have real consequences, create real pain, cost real people, and real consequences is seeing too late, is understanding after empath is gone, is recognizing impact after impact has destroyed what mattered. Empath's silence is also destroying avoidant because it's revealing avoidant's own feelings. When empath was present, was pursuing avoidant could stay defended, could minimize their own feelings, could pretend they didn't care that much, could maintain defended identity as person who doesn't need anyone, but empath's absence is creating feelings avoidant can't defend against. Feelings of loss, feelings of missing, feelings of wanting empath back, feelings of regret about patterns. The feelings are overwhelming defended system, are proving that avoidant does care, does need, does attach, does love even while being unable to show love. The feelings overwhelming defense is avoidance defended identity cracking, is them facing they're not who they thought they were, not as independent, not as unbothered, not as capable of being alone. The cracked identity is crisis, is them facing parts of themselves they've been defending against, parts that need, parts that attach, parts that love, parts that are devastated by loss, and devastated parts emerging is them being forced to feel what they've been avoiding feeling, to acknowledge what they've been denying, to face that they love empath, and loving empath while empath is gone is pain they can't defend against, can't minimize, can't escape, just have to feel. And feeling while defended against feeling is torture, is them experiencing what they organized entire life to avoid. And experiencing avoided thing is destruction, is them breaking. Is defended state being unable to maintain defense against this specific loss of this specific person who mattered more than they admitted, and now is gone, and gone is teaching them how much they cared by showing them how much it hurts to lose what they cared about while pretending not to care. The stages avoidant goes through after recognizing empath silence is permanent. First stage is denial mixed with confidence. Denial that empath is actually done. Confidence that empath will return because empath always returned before. The denial confidence is avoidance staying comfortable initially, is them telling themselves this is like every other time. That empath is just taking space. That silence will break soon. That pattern will repeat where empath reaches out and relationship resumes. The comfortable denial lasts days or weeks depending on how defended avoidant is. Lasts until evidence accumulates that this time is different. That silence is continuing beyond usual time frame. That empath isn't showing signs of wavering. That absence is deepening, not lessening. The accumulating evidence starts cracking the denial, starts introducing doubt, starts creating discomfort that confidence can't fully suppress. And cracking denial is movement towards second stage. Second stage is anger. Anger that empath left, anger that empath gave up, anger that empath isn't fighting anymore, anger that empath went silent instead of staying engaged. The anger is defense against pain, is avoidant projecting responsibility onto empath, making empath wrong for leaving, making empath's silence into empath's failure, making empath's self-protection into empath's abandonment. The defensive anger is blaming. Is avoidant telling themselves empath is being unfair, is being dramatic, is overreacting. Is punishing avoidant for patterns avoidant couldn't control. The blame protects avoidant from facing their responsibility. From facing their patterns created this. From facing they destroyed relationship through defended incapacity. The protection through blame is temporary comfort, Is anger being easier than grief, easier than accountability, easier than facing they caused the loss they're experiencing? But anger doesn't change reality, doesn't bring empath back, doesn't undo the silence, just delays avoidance facing what's actually happening. And delayed facing is anger eventually exhausting itself, burning out, leaving avoidant with nothing but the reality anger was protecting them from. Third stage is bargaining with themselves, with universe, with empath through messages they may or may not send. The bargaining is if only thinking, if only they'd been different, if only they'd tried harder, if only they'd understood sooner, if only they could have one more chance. The if only is avoidant recognizing too late what they should have done differently, recognizing their patterns were problem, recognizing they could have changed, recognizing they destroyed something valuable. The late recognition is painful. Is regret. Is seeing clearly after seeing clearly would have mattered. Is understanding after understanding would have changed outcome. The bargaining includes promises to change, promises to do therapy, promises to be different, promises to meet empath if empath comes back. The promises are genuine in moment, are avoidant actually meaning them, actually wanting to change, actually recognizing need to change. But promises made during loss are different from promises made during relationship. During relationship, promises had opportunity to be kept, had empath there to support change, had relationship as motivation for change. But during loss, promises are empty, are too late, are what should have been done before, not after. Our avoidant offering change after change would have mattered instead of when change mattered. And after change is useless, is change empath won't witness, won't benefit from, won't be there to receive. The useless promises is avoidant facing they had chance to change and didn't take it. Had opportunity to do the work and didn't do it. Had empath who would have supported growth and didn't grow when it mattered is permanent regret. Fourth stage is depression. Depression from loss, from facing they destroyed relationship, from recognizing empath isn't returning, from understanding silence is permanent. The depression is grief, is avoidant finally feeling the loss, finally sitting with the pain, finally facing that empath is gone, and goneness is their fault, and fault is unfixable, and unfixable means permanent. The grief is heavy, is consuming, is avoidant experiencing feelings their defended state was organized to prevent. Feelings of abandonment, feelings of loss, feelings of being alone, feelings of having destroyed something precious. The overwhelming feelings is defended state failing, is protection not working, his walls not preventing pain they were built to prevent, and failed defense is avoidant being defenseless. Being vulnerable, being human in ways they've avoided being human, the forced humanity is painful but potentially transformative, is them experiencing full weight of consequences, full reality of loss, full truth of their responsibility. And full weight is teaching that could drive change, could drive therapy, could drive them to address patterns so this never happens again. Or full weight could just be suffering, just be pain they endure without transforming, just be loss they carry without learning from. The transform or just suffer is determined by whether they use depression as catalyst or just sink into depression as endpoint. Fifth stage is acceptance or transformation. Some accept the loss, accept empath is gone, accept they can't undo it, accept they learned too late. The acceptance is resignation, is them moving forward without empath, without having changed, without having done the work, just moving forward with loss as permanent scar, with empath as the one who got away, with relationship as evidence of their incapacity. The resigned acceptance is tragedy, is them staying exactly as broken as they were, staying exactly as defended, staying exactly as incapable, just now with evidence that incapacity costs them people, evidence that patterns destroy relationships, evidence that defended state prevents intimacy in ways that creates permanent losses. The evidence without transformation is wasted suffering, is them knowing better while not being better, is them understanding their patterns while not changing their patterns, is them recognizing problem while not solving problem. The know without change is them staying stuck while being aware they're stuck. And aware stuck is conscious suffering, is them knowing they'll probably destroy next relationship, same way they destroyed this one. Knowing but not doing anything about knowing, except suffering from knowing. Others transform, use loss as catalyst, use pain as motivation, use regret as fuel. They pursue therapy, actually pursue it. Consistently, for years, they do the work of processing attachment wounds, of developing emotional regulation, of learning vulnerability, of building capacity for intimacy. They become different people, people capable of relationship, people capable of sustaining connection, people capable of being vulnerable, people capable of meeting partner. The transformation is beautiful. Is them using empaths leaving as wake-up call, as crisis that finally drove them to address patterns they've been avoiding addressing, as consequence severe enough to overcome their defended resistance to growth. The growth through loss is them honoring empath's sacrifice, honoring the pain empathy endured, honoring the years empathy gave trying to help them. The honoring is becoming who empathy was trying to help them become, but becoming it after empath is gone, becoming it too late for empath to benefit, becoming it with someone else, someone new, someone who gets the transformed version, who gets the capable version, who gets the person avoidant could have been with empath if they'd done the work then instead of now. And too late transformation is gift to new person, is tragedy for empath who did the work of breaking them open but won't receive benefit of broken open leading to growth, is avoidant being transformed by loss of empath while empath is gone. While empath doesn't know, while empath has moved on to someone who was already capable, who didn't require breaking to become whole. What empath's silence teaches avoidant about empaths specifically, silence teaches avoidant that empaths have limits they didn't think empaths had, that empathy isn't infinite, that understanding runs out, that patience exhausts, that compassion has boundaries. The learning is avoidance assumptions being destroyed. Assumptions that empath would always be there, would always understand, would always give more chances, would always see beneath the patterns to the wound. The always assumptions were wrong. Empath did have limits, did reach end of understanding, did exhaust patience, did find boundary, and finding boundary is empath saying no. Is empath protecting themselves? Is empath choosing themselves over understanding avoidant? And choosing self over understanding is avoidant learning that empaths aren't bottomless wells, aren't self-sacrificing martyrs, aren't people who will tolerate anything in service of understanding wound, are people with limits, with needs, with capacity that depletes, with self-respect that eventually asserts itself. And self-respecting empath is empath who leaves, who goes silent, who stops giving, who protects their empathy by removing it from situation where empathy is being used to enable dysfunction. The silence also teaches that empath's departure is quieter but more final than others' departures. Others leave with drama, with anger, with declarations, with making avoidant wrong. The dramatic departure is loud but reversible, is leaving that can be undone through apology or pursuit or changed behavior. But empath's departure is quiet, is silent, is calm, is no drama, no anger, no making avoidant wrong. Just stopping, just withdrawing, just being done. The quiet departure is more final because it's not emotional, is thought through, is decided not reacted to, is empath making conscious choice not impulsive exit. And conscious choice is harder to reverse, is based on understanding not feeling, is rooted in recognition not reaction. Is empath seeing clearly that staying is harmful and leaving is healthy and healthy is choice they're making? The clarity-based departure doesn't reverse when emotions settle, doesn't undo when anger passes, doesn't change when missing sets in. Just stays. Stays decided, stays clear, stays final. And final through clarity is more permanent than final through emotion. Is empathying gone in ways that don't reverse, in ways that don't negotiate, in ways that don't give more chances? Just gone. Silence teaches avoidant that losing empath is different from losing other types. Other types they could rationalize losing, could tell themselves other person was wrong for them, was too needy, was too demanding, was too much. The rationalization protected them, made loss feel acceptable, made leaving feel mutual, made ending feel like right outcome. But losing empath can't be rationalized same way. Empath wasn't too needy, had reasonable needs avoidant couldn't meet, wasn't too demanding, had boundaries avoidant couldn't respect, wasn't too much, was exactly right amount that avoidant was too little for. The can't rationalize is avoidant facing they lost good person, lost right person, lost person who was compatible except for avoidance incapacity. And losing right person through owning capacity is regret that's specific, is knowing you destroyed something good, destroyed something that worked except for you not working, destroyed something that could have been beautiful if you'd been capable of beautiful. The specific regret is permanent, is different from regret about losing wrong person. Is knowing you lost right person, and right person is rare, and rare lost through your patterns is loss that haunts, that persists, that never fully resolves because it's not loss of incompatible person. Is loss of compatible person you couldn't be compatible with because you weren't capable of compatibility. And incapable with compatible person is tragedy. Is them carrying forever the knowing that they had the right person and destroyed it through being wrong version of themselves. The permanent mark empath's silence leaves on avoidant. Empath becomes the standard all future relationships are measured against. Not because empath was perfect, because empath's silence was dignified, was self-respecting, was boundaried in ways that make avoidant respect while having it. The dignified ending is empath showing avoidant what healthy boundaries look like, what self-respect requires, what choosing yourself means. The showing is teaching. Is modeling. Is avoidant witnessing strength they didn't recognize as strength while empath was staying. Thought empath staying was weakness. Thought empath's understanding was inability to leave. Thought empath's patience was lack of options, but silence revealed truth. Empath was strong enough to leave, did have ability, did have options, was choosing to stay out of hope, not out of weakness. And choosing to stay from hope, his gift avoidant didn't recognize, didn't appreciate, didn't honor, until hope ran out, until staying became leaving, until gift was withdrawn. And withdrawn gift is avoidant seeing retroactively what they had, seeing empath's staying as choice not given, as offering not entitlement, as grace not weakness, and seeing retroactively as seeing too late. Is understanding after understanding would have changed behavior. Is appreciation after appreciation would have mattered. And too late appreciation is permanent regret about not valuing what they had while they had it. Empath also becomes evidence avoidant carries, evidence they can destroy good relationships through patterns. Evidence incapacity costs them people who matter. Evidence patterns aren't just quirks, are dysfunction that creates real consequences. The evidence is undeniable. Is them not being able to tell themselves relationships end because of incompatibility. This one ended because of their patterns, not because empath was wrong, because avoidant was incapable, and incapable ending compatible relationship is evidence that follows them. That affects future relationships. That creates anxiety in new connections, anxiety that they'll do it again. That patterns will destroy again. That incapacity will cost them again. The anxiety is awareness, is them knowing they have problem. Knowing problem destroys relationships. Knowing they'll probably destroy next relationship unless they address problem. The knowing without addressing is conscious dysfunction. Is them being aware they're broken while choosing not to fix broken. And conscious unfixed broken is them going into future relationships knowing they'll probably fail. Probably destroy. Probably cost them another person who matters. All while having evidence from empath that knowing doesn't prevent destroying. That awareness doesn't stop patterns. That consciousness about dysfunction doesn't cure dysfunction. Only work cures dysfunction. And work isn't being done. It's being avoided same way vulnerability is avoided, same way change is avoided, same way growth is avoided. And avoided work is them carrying empath as permanent evidence of what avoided work costs. Of what staying broken destroys. Of what refusing growth loses. And lost empath is permanent scar, is wound that doesn't heal, is evidence they carry forever that their patterns cost them person who mattered, person who stayed longer than they should have, person who gave more chances than were deserved, person who understood more than should have been required, person who loved them while they stayed defended, person who went silent when silence was only option left, person who's gone now, gone permanently, gone in ways that teach even while gone. Teach that empaths have limits, that understanding expires, that patience depletes, that love without capacity isn't enough, that patterns cost people, that defended state destroys connection, that staying defended is choosing isolation, and chosen isolation through staying defended is life avoidant lives now, life without empath, life with silence where empath's voice used to be, life with absence where empath's presence used to be, life with regret where empath's patience used to be. Life with evidence where empath's understanding used to be. Evidence that they destroyed it. Evidence that silence was their consequence. Evidence that empath's quiet is permanent. That quiet means over. That over means too late. That too late means living with what too late created. Living with silence. living with absence. Living with knowing they had empath and lost through their own defended incapacity that they still haven't addressed, still haven't healed, still haven't transformed. Just carry, just regret, just live with empath's silence echoing in every future silence. Empath's absence present in every future absence. Empath's ending teaching in every future ending. Teaching that when empath goes quiet, it's already over, already done, already too late, and too late is permanent, is final, is empath gone, and gone is what avoidant lives with now. What they'll always live with, what silence taught them, what quiet meant, what over is. And over is empath being free while avoidant is stuck. Stuck with regret, stuck with evidence, stuck with knowing. Stuck with silence that never breaks, because silence that never breaks is empath's final boundary, final protection, final choice. Choice to be done, to be gone, to be quiet. And quiet is permanent. Quiet is over. Quiet is empath's last word. Word that's no word. Silence that says everything. Says they tried, says they're done, says it's over. Says goodbye in a way that doesn't negotiate, doesn't reverse, doesn't undo. Just ends. Just closes, just finishes. And finished is what it is, what it'll stay, what empath's quiet means over. Means done, means too late. And too late is what avoidant lives with when empath goes quiet. Lives with permanently. Lives with knowing quiet meant over, meant finished, meant done. Meant empath choosing themselves, finally. Meant empath protecting themselves ultimately. Meant empath being gone completely. And gone completely is what quiet is. What silence means. What over feels like when empath decides over. When empath goes silent. Silent means done. Done means over. Over means too late. And too late is avoidance' permanent state now. State of living after empath's silence. After empath's ending. After empath's quiet that meant goodbye. That meant finished. That meant over. Over is what it is. What quiet created. What silence means. Means empath is gone. Means it's too late. Means it's already over.